A person may lead a comfortable life on earth from ill-gotten wealth, but one has to suffer for it after death. No two ways about it, because the means of acquisition are wrong. And secondly, let's look at the inequalities of life. Have you ever wondered about the unfairness, injustice, inequity, and inequality in this world? Why are some born with golden spoon in their mouth? Why are some rich and others poor? Why do some succeed but others do not, no matter how they try? Why is life so tough for some people and for so many people? Why should God give to some and deny others? Why should God require the same virtues from people whom He has placed in different circumstances? One lives in luxury, the other on kicks and cracks. One has a moral education and an atmosphere of high ideals. The other is placed in a horrible surrounding and taught to lie and steal, an environment that fosters the survival of the fittest. Is it right to reward one living a good life when he or she was placed in an environment that made it extremely difficult to go astray, or to punish the other who was handicapped to such an extent that he or she never had any idea of what constitutes true morality? Yet at the end, they will be judged by the same standards. Why should a just and loving God do that? There are many examples regarding these questions and explanations as well. Let's look at what popular Christianity will say about these differing circumstances. 1. God did so to test the faith of His servant and show He is a mighty God. 2. People are required to be patient because God knows best. He gives and He takes, so we need to trust in Him and wait until the day of the Lord. These are some of the explanations you will get for these different circumstances in which people find themselves coming from Orthodox Christianity. We have nothing against these explanations. We, however, on this platform, said that the explanations leave out the role of the individual as a factor in bringing about the situation in which he or she finds himself or herself. As such, there should be a higher explanation to the inequalities in life than to impute such a negative reasoning to God. What we are, what we have, all our good or bad qualities are the result of our own actions now or in the past. What do we mean by our actions in the past? We will explain, but take note that what we lack in physical, moral, or mental excellence may yet be ours in the future, or now, if only we work towards it. Generally, the inequalities of life can be satisfactorily explained by two laws. 1, the law of cause and effect, or the law of consequence, and 2, the law of rebirth. Both laws harmonize with the conception of a just and loving God as taught by Christ Himself. Moreover, by means of these two laws, a way to free ourselves from the present undesirable position or environment is shown, together with how to become successful, no matter how imperfect we may be now. First and foremost, there are laws guiding the various worlds. That of the physical world is commonly called the laws of nature. Mankind, humanity, is required to work with and within these laws. Every transgression is met with equal retribution. Disobedience causes an imbalance. When we disobey these laws, we cause an imbalance, Hence, the need to restore equilibrium at the individual, societal, and natural levels. In the process of restoration, the wrongdoer suffers consequences in order to teach him or her a lesson not to repeat the wrong. The oftener the transgression, the harder, the more severe the sanction becomes. The aim is not to punish, but to enhance conscience and virtue of the spirit. Let us not forget that human beings, as we are spirits in flesh, and it is the spirit that is learning the lessons in the physical world. Everything we do is by the spirit. There are unseen nature forces watching over us, and their job is to restore that balance. Their work is impersonal. These nature forces do not care who you are. Theirs is to make sure that there is balance. So their work is impersonal. Your status or position in society, your wealth, your power, or your fame do not come in at all. What the nature forces look for is the quality of your thoughts, your words, your emotions, and your actions. That is what they look for. What are the qualities? The wrong ones must be corrected. So there comes the law of cause and effect. The thoughts, the words, emotions, and actions of every human being permeate the various worlds, whether we know it or not, whether the person knows it or not. The thought, the words, emotions, and actions permeate each of these worlds. The oftener they are repeated, the stronger they become. They form part of the energy field of the individual and are integral to the person's light, vibration, sound, and color, and they surround the person, every individual, what may be called aura. There are various grades of entities in the spiritual world, especially the desire world, who are attracted and they populate the energy field of the individual depending on the individual's habits. If it is a low and debased desires, entities from the lower desire world will enter into the energy field, feeding on the extracts from what a person generates anytime he or she is involved in that debased thought, word, emotion, and action. Remember, like attracts likes, and also not only physically but spiritually. Whatever we are doing, there are other forces around us. At times, when the person comes to the realization that the behavior is wrong and want to stop, these low entities will impress upon him or her through various ways to continue to indulge in the wrong habit so that they will not be starved. Let's look at the case of the drug addict or the drunkard. At times, the person feels the urge to stop. A decision is made to stop, what you may call to repent. The low entities in his or her energy field feel threatened because they cannot satisfy themselves anymore in the absence of the vibration that comes from the fumes of the stimulants. As they feel deprived, they will try by every means possible. They will do their best to influence the drug addict or the drunkard to go back to the old ways. How did they do it? Through suggestions. They may come like a sudden thought or a sudden desire to go back, or they may use different means through friends to get you back into that old destructive low desire. They will try to influence the person to relapse. All bad habits fall under this description. If the individual is weak-willed, he or she may go back to the old ways. But if he or she has a strong will, he will reform successfully. The following are some of the low desires that attract low entities into our energy field. And we can read from Galatians chapter 5, verse 19 to 21. Cause desires of materiality, greed, selfishness, lying, jealousy, hatred, deception, stealing, injustice, fraud, drunkenness, adultery, fornication, suicide, racism, tribalism, witchcraft, or black magic. These are all low desires. They are all low desires, and there are entities that also enjoy the extracts from the desire that we generate from using the low desires. How about the high and lofty desires? If the individual lives by high desires, he or she creates an energy field of sparkling light, of high spirituality, and evil and low forces cannot penetrate his or her energy field. Such a person attracts higher, loving, and powerful entities into his aura, around himself or herself, including angels. Examples of these lofty desires are unconditional love and altruism, caring and sharing, helpfulness, compassion, truthfulness, transparency, to be fair to people, non-discrimination, honesty, making peace, benevolence, having sympathy, forgiveness, and what have you. They go to strengthen our higher desires. All these come into what we call the seed atom. What is the seed atom? There is an atom in the left ventricle of the heart of every human being called the seed atom. Of course, we cannot see atom with our physical eyes, but it is there. It is the energizer for the cells. The blood carries pictures of our surroundings, our thoughts, our words, our emotions, and our actions. Those records are stamped on the seed atom. So everything, our surrounding and how we ourselves are, in terms of our emotions, in terms of our thoughts, in terms of our words, they are all recorded in the seed atom. And they are carried like pictures through the blood and recorded in the seed atom of every human being. The recording takes place automatically. It needs no suggestion or approval from anybody. We have no power to shut it out. Why is it that we do not have any power to shut it out? It is part of our involuntary system. And the seed atom is described in Revelation chapter 20, verse 12. It is called the book of life. And we read, "And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books were opened. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works." So long as the records are in the seed atom, they must be fulfilled, good or bad. Actually, the records form the basis of forgiveness, the spirit's journey after earth life, especially through purgatory or hell, the first heaven, and so on. Those records form the basis. We will talk more about the seed atom in our lecture regarding death, hell, and the heavenly worlds. Let us look briefly at after-earth life. We have said in lecture number 2 and 3 that the spirit has 4 material bodies and 3 spiritual aspects that connect it to the 7 worlds, the last of the worlds being this physical world. At death, when a person dies, the records of his activities in the physical world that are contained in the seed atom are uploaded. Those records are played into the next bodies. The records are uploaded into the higher bodies, starting with the vital body, then the desire body, and finally the mind. The records are played and carried along. The spirit goes through the spiritual world stage by stage, using and assimilating the records. So the records that the spirit has generated, depending on the life that it has led on earth, They are uploaded, and the Spirit carries those records along. They will be played to it. All of them not at the same time, not in one spiritual world, but one world after the other. Mind you, the Spirit has bodies that connect it to the various worlds. The first records are played back to it, starting with the low and the base desires that it gathered during earth life. It means that the first records that are played to the Spirit is in terms of the low desires that it has built by itself. The records are first played in the lower region of the desire world, because that is where the Spirit will first go through, the lower region of the desire world. This lower region is called purgatory or hell in popular Christianity teachings. You may not know it, but that is how the Western wisdom teachings describe that. It is not a pleasant place because it is populated by horrible beings, monsters, and demons whose pleasure is wickedness, because these low desires attract horrible beings like that. So when you are going through that world, they surely will attack you. The Spirit, now using the desire body, mind you, after death, the Spirit does not use this physical body anymore. It now uses the desire body, not the dense body or the vital body. The Spirit suffers for its wrong desires and misdeeds until it finally realized that the purpose of life on earth was not about the vanity of materiality and sensuality. It is not about money, power, and popularity, lands and buildings, stock markets, businesses, cars and luxuries, food and drinks, parties and enjoyment. The purpose of life is not about that. It is neither about wife, husband, and children, friends and foes, social status or respect. No, the purpose of life goes beyond that. Having been thoroughly purged in the lower region of the desire world, the Spirit develops what we call conscience. So it is not punishment, but it's to build into the Spirit conscience for it to know and decipher the wrong from the right. Until that is achieved, the Spirit cannot levitate to the first heaven. Until that realization comes to the Spirit in purgatory or in hell, it can never levitate to the first heaven. But once achieved, the Spirit goes on to the first heaven, where records of its good deeds, the good things that it has done on earth, are played to enhance its joy. The essence of playing the good deeds to the Spirit in the first heaven is to strengthen virtue, the good things that it has done on earth. These qualities of conscience and virtue are built into the threefold aspect of the Virgin Spirit, namely the Divine Spirit aspect, the Life Spirit aspect, and the Human Spirit aspect. These aspects are strengthened in the Spirit. The integrated qualities make who we are and our level of spirituality and the status of the Spirit. A person may lead a comfortable life on earth from ill-gotten wealth, but one has to suffer for it after death. No two ways about it, because the means of acquisition are wrong. And secondly, the person has nothing good to integrate into his or her spirit. That person, therefore, becomes slow in spiritual development. On earth, the person may enjoy thinking that he or she is living a comfortable life. But no, the suffering for the wrong things is even more than what pertains in the physical world. The suffering for the wrong things in the spiritual world will even be more than what pertains in the physical world. In effect, it is only the amount of good work done by the Spirit on earth. We're talking about the right action, the lofty desires, the good thoughts, and the edifying words. Only those qualities can be extracted and integrated into the Spirit. That is to say, nothing can be built into the Spirit as good qualities if it has not previously worked for it. The Spirit then goes on to the second heaven, where it continues to work. It then proceeds to the third heaven, which is actually the real home of the spirit. There, in the third heaven, it rests, and having been rejuvenated, a time comes that the spirit becomes so rejuvenated that it desires and wills to come back into the physical world, to continue its experience gathering, to become like God, a creative intelligence. The ultimate is to use the word and also become a creative intelligence, like God. Having taken that decision, heaven willed that the spirit then descends through the spiritual worlds. Just as it climbs to the spiritual world, so it descends when it wants to come back into earth life. It comes into its earthly home in the womb. 18 to 21 days on conception, then the spirit comes into the womb. But before that period, it comes and goes, it comes and goes. By the 18th to the 21st, it's tied by the recording angels. It doesn't go anymore. It remains in the womb. That is its home, and it grows. And that union is by parents in the physical world. So parents make the initial substance that is needed, and we have the fetus. And then the spirit descends in there. The spirit is not from the parents. You only make the physical environment available for the spirit to take. It comes back to rebirth with the qualities of its previous stay on earth, the integrated qualities of conscience and virtue. That is how it plays out. The spirit cannot get something that it hasn't worked for. It is only that which it has worked for, which is integrated into it, and it comes back with it. The object of coming back into earth life is to build on its previous experience. The environment that it finds itself is by choice. The spirit makes that choice by itself before it comes back to rebirth. Its parents, its siblings, the hometown, the country, the race, color, or status, bodily structure, friends, and so-called enemies are in exact proportion to the work it did in the past, physically and spiritually.